Okay.
She witnessed 3 planes that day.
All right. In the time frame, as best you can construct it, if you can, and if you can't, that's okay. Did she give you any sense of how in sequence this went? Big jet, then what?
She saw the big jet, and what's really fascinating with her story is she's about a mile slightly northwest of the crash site. And she goes on this and tells this story about she was out back with her sister, and the plane flies over, and she's like, and, you know, everything got quiet. She's like, the birds stopped, and there was just silence. You couldn't hear anything. And then she says, you know, we heard someone go, oh, my God, like yell off in the distance. And she goes, and I looked at my sister, and I was like, wow, what's that? And she goes, and that's when they heard the thud. So, I mean, we have a considerable amount of time from when she sees the first plane until she hears the actual, what's supposed to be the explosion out there. And then she said she went into the house, and that's when someone from Stoystown Auto Records had called her because they had a good relationship, and was like, you know, the plane just came buzzing right over the treetops here, and I just wanted to make sure. We heard the thud. We wanted to make sure, you know, it didn't crash at your house or something like that. We saw the smoke. And she's like, no. She's like, no, I'm all right, and this and that. And she's like, and then she went outside, and that's when she noticed the larger white plane leaving from the crash site, flying, I guess it would be to off towards the northwest, the way that Flight 93 came. And she goes, and then I noticed even higher, off in the distance, going the other way, a small white plane. So this is probably, I'm thinking, 3 to 4 minutes after the explosion. So the little white plane stuck around for a couple minutes. And then it was leaving, and as it was leaving, probably within 2 to 3 minutes, the bigger white plane approached the crash site.
Okay, now, we are agreed, just to get directions down, and again, we have 2 images up there of that area. One that's more of a close-in shot of the crash site to the Indian Lake Marina, just to give you that kind of orientation, and we'll talk about that in a little time. The other one is a pullback that shows you both the crash site, Indian Lake Marina, and New Baltimore, and that latter destination may hold a key for a lot of things. We are talking with Dominic DiMaggio, and you can weigh in on stuff, and you can talk to Dominic and everyone. I mean, Dominic, off Pentacon.com, if they click on discussion board, they will get to a subdirectory that will take them to Shanksville. Is that right?
Correct, yes.
And that's when everybody can weigh in more or less on what's happening.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so, folks, if you want to go there, you know, by all means do so. But we've not reached the end of the matter, no matter what. So now that we're talking about, and Dominic, at this point, before I go anywhere else, and I'm going to head to the marina, is there anything you want to fill in so that we haven't left a gap as we go over to whatever happened at the marina?
No, let's head over there.
All right, that's another scary thing. Folks, if you take a look at the geography of this, okay, and the only reason I'll say that New Baltimore is a factor, we know that what crashed whatever made that crater was not a 7 Series commercial airliner. Are we agreed on that point?
I agree with
I
that.
hope
Absolutely.
So. But if you take a tangent and you take a look at the crash site, the marina, and New Baltimore, I'm not, I don't know what this all means. When people talk about an overflight at the marina, maybe. But certainly if we don't have a shoot down or a breakup, which, and Dominic, at this point, we probably should hammer that out. Yeah,
I don't have a witness that can tell me that there was any engagement. So
No.
My belief, especially considering the other planes and the presence, I don't think there's anything to really support a shoot down, and it's circumstantial at best.
No, and Rumsfeld, the absolute consummate bastard that he is, leaked misslips about the missile that crashed into the Pentagon. Remember that one?
Yes.
And also the shoot down. Oh, wait, hold on. Listen, this guy, how does he hide the horns from his head? But anyway, he's gone. That's all over and done with. Forget whatever you heard. You and I talked a long time ago, and I don't know that I made a case for it. I don't know that you were opposed to what I was saying or that you even remember it. But my feeling has always been, if we know that Shanksville is a fake site, there's got to be a real site, and it's got to be a controlled site. Because you can't, with a shoot down, hey man, you don't know where that thing's going to come down. And then how do you fake everything if there's no bodies on board?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Feel free.
Because of because of the fact that it didn't crash there, I for a long time I was open to the shoot down, but I don't think there's any other crash site. I think the whole thing was planned out now well ahead of time, and that this site was picked for its reasons. I mean, it's a military flight corridor. It's a perfect location. It's a great heartwarming story to rally a country into war with. I think a shoot down was kind of put out there to explain the presence of the other planes witnessed by all the other residents of the area. And a lot of people, because if you go out to Shanksville and you meet the people out there, you'll find 100 people will be like, oh, they shot that plane down. It's a common knowledge out there, because there's all these stories of the military planes. And it makes sense, especially when you got all these people at Indian Lake. And if you go and you read the Pittsburgh Tribune Review on September 12, 2001, they ran a story. They reported that Jim Staub was fishing in Indian Lake at the time and watched the plane fly over. Now, in the story, they say that he saw the plane losing debris, which would be consistent with the debris actually being recovered from the site, which we know happened.
If the plane had an event midair.
Yes.
Okay.
And another thing is, in that same article, it also says many residents of Indian Lake called 911 after reporting hearing the doomed jetliner flying low over their homes, breaking apart.
Okay. As I said, when I last talked to you, you probably weren't on board with that. I don't know. Do you remember that we had that discussion?
Yes.
All right. And and it was okay. But when I look at it, like I said, I still think there's a couple of steadfast, stone and chisel commandments that says if you have a fake site, you must have a real site. And if you have a shoot down, that's a wild card.
Yeah. If you have a shoot down, the whole thing is open. So, there's reports of it. I don't know about New Baltimore, but what I'm open to really is if there was a shoot down, it most likely came down just short of Camp David, which you'll recall there's a lot of reports about, they said a fifth plane or whatever crashing just outside of Camp David that morning, and then that all disappeared.
I'll give you that, but I also think that fits in with the misinformation. But I will give you that, and that's another thing that sits out there. But I'll again, I'll just stick to the thing is that if we've got a fake site, we must have a real site. There's no sense to have a shoot down if you have a fake site, because if you have a fake site, you can't have the plane come down where you want anybody to see it. And the shoot down doesn't allow you to have that because, what people don't understand, and pilots will tell you, and they might even told you, Dominic. One of the things that my friend Pilot Pete, still up there with Continental, was afraid of in years gone by was, a SAMI that would go. They always go for the engines.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, the right one. But anyway, he knew he could fly the plane, but it wasn't going to be a good story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But planes don't drop out of the sky if they take a hit from a SAMI.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have a shoot down, which would be plane to plane. It's going to still be able to go somewhere, with
absolutely.
See what I'm saying? So in other words,
it doesn't drop like a stone. Yeah.
No. And if you got a fake site, you don't want the damn real one to come up.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
All right, that's all I'm saying. That's why I think the shoot down story is bull hockey, because you got to have things controlled.